It is Ryan Seacrest here. Everybody needs some variety in life. That's what I love about Chumba Casino. They know how to keep things fresh and exciting. All their games are free to play. Like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire. You can claim free daily login bonuses, too. And they release new games every week. So spice things up with ChumbaCasino.com now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Welcome, Cinesmacketeers, to bout 124 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I get to be your guest host, good old Andrew Zumwaltz, normally on the panel, but we have to still have judges, so my spot was filled by our illustrious, long-time running host of Mike. So, here we go. First, filmmaker and owner of Southsider Studios, and normally hosting, but is too excited about these films, Mike the Rocketeer Keeler.
Baby did it. Just, I want to suggest a movie. Gabby Johnson from Blazing Saddles, along with Mumbles from Dick Tracy, and it's a buddy film. And you can't understand what either one of them are saying.
Ooh. Perfect.
Wonderful.
I love it.
Second, writer, actor, and director Kyle. I sweat a lot better in the dark. Fine.
I sweat a lot better all the time. You should see my sheets. Hey, is your peach running? You better catch it. My peach is running right now. I need Depends.
Okay, wow. Third, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel. Chewing gum ain't gonna keep your butt up in the air. Whoa.
Hey, Mike, how much do you weigh?
Too much.
Oh. You're supposed to say... 195, 196. I say, what's that? And then you say 210.
210.
There's no better joke than when the other person isn't in on it.
I know. I should have set it up. I thought he would know.
I'm sorry. And Mike is maybe 195 in his bra.
Yes, in my bra.
Fourth, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom. Aren't you gonna frisk me? I guess.
30 seconds, no more dick. Wow.
Okay.
It's a PG movie. I can't believe it's a PG movie.
Right?
Yeah.
These are family-friendly movies.
Yeah.
Speaking of, aren't we going to poke the monkey and find out what we're talking about?
Ladies and gentlemen, comic book junkies and heroes alike, welcome to the main event. Tonight, two classic comic book icons go toe-to-toe in a battle of epic proportions. Who will finish the job, save the girl, and drive or fly off into the sunset? In the first corner, from 1991, written by Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo, Joe Johnston, starring Billy Campbell, Jennifer Connelly, and Alan Arkin. The Rocketeer! In the second quarter from 1990, written by Chester Gould, Jim Cash, and Jack Epps Jr. Directed by Warren Beatty. Starring Warren Beatty, Madonna, and Al Pacino. Dick Tracy.
Tonight, our illustrious magic of the Dick Tracy versus the Rocketeer. We're going to go into our wonderful rounds, and we're going to start with writing.
All right, I'll start with the long one first. Let's do The Rocketeer. The Rocketeer is an interesting movie capturing the spirit of man's desire to fly and soar with the eagles, be a hero, make a difference, and like our obsession with that sort of living on the edge and all that stuff. It's very poetic, very moving. It's great, right? It's a little underwritten. Timothy Dalton is great. We'll talk about that in acting, but his part is great. I really enjoyed Timothy Dalton's part. Tom's shaking his head no, he doesn't like it. But I especially loved it when he was wearing that long curly wig. I thought that was great. That's my Timothy Dalton. That's the 007 I want to see. The one that looks like a 70s undercover cop on like a San Francisco street corner. That'd be fun. I thought The Rocketeer was interesting. It was kind of fun, and it's obviously family-oriented, kind of action-adventure. I'm sure when we get to the overall round, we'll have a lot to say about the scores of these movies, because I think that's something that stood out on both of these films. And I have no idea why I'm mentioning it during writing. I guess I'm just nervous, so I'm blurting everything out. And I can see Tom now, and it's making me really self-conscious, because his face is so beautiful. And I've got him doubled on my screen, and it's like he's touching his face now. It's nice. Anyways, you guys can't see this. So let's get on.
That look when you say something that he doesn't agree with.
Yeah, I know. There's always a disapproving dad look from Tom when you say something wrong. Now let's get to the really quick one. Dick Tracy. Warren Beatty once had a journal in which he wrote, "I like Dick Tracy," and that's the end of the writing of Dick Tracy. This is a classic example of a movie that is all style over substance. And it's very pretty, and it's visually interesting, and I think it's cool that it doesn't involve any CGI, and it's all makeup and practical effects and stuff like that, but it is written with about the same amount of depth as a 1930s comic strip, which isn't saying much when the movie is an hour and 40 minutes long. So those are my thoughts on these movies. Yeah, also, if I were a Dick Tracy villain, I'd be Fatface.
Are any of you guys actually familiar with the Dick Tracy comics? Because I'm not. I mean, I kind of remember them vaguely as a kid. I mean, but I
Mike's old enough
to
have read them all when they first came out.
You did?
I remember.
Yeah, Mike did. Yeah, in the 30s.
I probably did.
I remember him from chewing gum.
Mike was going to college when Dick Tracy came out.
I collected all the stone tablets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there was probably a lot of material to draw from. I just wonder how much of the movie was actually taken from the comics, because I honestly don't know. Do any of you guys know?
Well, I mean, I know the villains all were.
Right.
And that was kind of a concern when they announced it, was how are they going to do all of these very unique looking villains? So story-wise, I feel like Dick Tracy had more. I completely disagree with what you said, Kyle. I think Dick Tracy's story is. I thought it had more depth than the Rocketeer story, because the Rocketeer story was just, I know, it's been done to death, and I had not seen the Rocketeer before I watched it yesterday, and like when what the hell is her name? Jennifer Connelly. When she goes in and she flips over and she finds out that they're battling Nazis for the last 30 minutes, I was like, come on. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, I mean, I'm all for biling Nazis, but it's overdone. So I just like it could have been a much cooler story, but to find out that Timothy Dalton was a Nazi, it was a little underwhelming.
I disagree.
They play the real surprise Nazi card.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, how much of that is actually based on the source material,
For the Rocketeer.
Yeah. When was that originally?
The only book that I have, or actually I have a couple of the books, but they were written after the movie. And one is the movie adaptation, but it was a comic before they made the movie, if I remember right.
Oh.
But it wasn't a very old comic, was it?
I can give you very good information about this coming up after writing.
Oh, okay. All right. But
Well, hang on.
I love The Rocketeer because to me, it's just an adventure movie. And yes, we had Indiana Jones fighting Nazis, but it's more fun to watch as far as the writing is concerned. It's very laid out and serialized, and it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I agree with you guys. I actually agree with Tom on this. I think Dick Tracy might have had a little bit more depth to it than The Rocketeer. But then again, the Rocketeer is meant just to be an adventure film. And the writing for Dick Tracy, on the other hand, you have so much source material, and you can tell that Warren Beatty loved the source material and really dived deep into that source material when they were making the movie, as far as the writing is concerned, because you have all these characters from the comic strip, and you have to write parts for all those characters. And granted, some of them are just background, but you get a large majority of all those characters that were in the comic book, and they're featured in the film somehow. And I think that takes a lot as far as writing, because it was doing Marvel before Marvel did it, right? You're bringing together all this entire Rogues Gallery, maybe more like Suicide Squad, but still better than Suicide Squad. So that's all I've got to say about writing. I mean, I don't think there's much to say about either one as far as writing is concerned.
Yeah, I kind of felt like Dick Tracy was a little bit jumbled, a little bit, and then you've got all these characters who have really interesting faces, and that makes a lot of sense when the source is a comic strip, But I think it would have been fun to develop characters, related to those faces, if you know what I mean. Like give them each like character traits that were unique as well. But they all just kind of had your average gangster kind of tough guy kind of character. They weren't really all that unique. I enjoyed Rocketeer. I agree with Tom that it's a very classic story. There's nothing really super original about it, but it's pretty well done. And I thought the characters were developed a little bit better. I cared more about what happened to those characters than I did with any of the characters in Dick Tracy. Although there were a few moments in Dick Tracy that I felt kind of like, that brought out some emotion. When the kid gets his official certificate. And he says, well, don't you have to have a name? Don't you have to pick a name for it? And he picks Dick Tracy Jr. I thought that was kind of nice, And then at the end, when he's trying to propose to Tess, and that kind of stuff, it was. We'll get into it in acting. I'm not sure Warren Beatty is a great actor, but it was kind of a touching moment, even though he was still kind of. It showed his character, who Dick Tracy is and who Tess is. So I thought those were good moments. I don't know. I don't think either one was really stellar from a writing standpoint, but yeah.
No, I mean, both movies definitely have their flaws. I mean, they're deeply flawed movies. I think Dick Tracy gets a lot more flack than it should for other categories that we'll get to eventually. But I liked Dick Tracy when I first saw it, and I thought that I don't know. It was the first time that I had like seen somebody take something from the Sunday comics and put it into the movie. And I did read the Sunday comics every Sunday, and I thought they did a really good job because they are working with 4 to 8 panels a day is all they really had to work with. But it seemed like to me that they made that translation really well. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
As you can tell, we are full of things to say about the stellar writing of these movies.
I'm trying to hold you guys back, you know.
Yeah, I think some of the other categories are going to have a lot more.
Yes.
A lot more talk because I think there's a lot more material for acting and directing and such.
I feel like, so I'll put it to you this way. I feel like Rocketeer is very much like what you would get if you went to a weekend screenwriting seminar. And you're like, okay, so hit these points, hit this, hit your beats, and everything else. Whereas Dick Tracy is more confined to the fact that their source material wasn't very deep, It was, it's not the comic book movies that we have now. And so it was kind of restrained by, it leaned heavily on style, and I think that there was an opportunity there to kind of flesh the story out, but they really weren't sure what they could and couldn't do with it. How much creative license do you have with a comic that people have known for 40 years? It's tricky. Personally, I would rather take the Dick Tracy route than the Rocketeer route because the Rocketeer route feels very cookie cutter to me.
Yeah, it definitely follows the formula. I mean, it doesn't stray from the formula at all. Yeah. That's not necessarily a bad thing because it, like Mike said, it was very entertaining. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I found it very entertaining, and it was well made. But again, that falls kind of in the other categories. There isn't a lot of material as far as the writing on these. They're not very deep, either of them.
They are not deep. Nope.
No.
Entertaining.
Wow. Are you guys going to try and drag the category out like the movies drug themselves out?
Yeah.
Haven't we accomplished that already?
All right. Anybody else have any last closing arguments?
Nope. I think every single one of us has said the same thing, but differently.
Yep.
I thought the weekend screenwriting thing, I thought was pretty, yeah. All right. Fuck it. Next category. Let's go.
Well, first we should probably vote on this one. So, Kyle.
Oh, God. Well, I was at that weekend seminar, so I will go with the Rocketeer.
Okay. Tom.
Dick Tracy.
Okay. And then we've got Mike.
I'm going to actually go with Dick Tracy on this one.
All right. And Gabe.
Let's split it down the middle. I'm going to go with Rocketeer.
All right. So, Dick Tracy. The comic strip originally started in the Chicago Tribune in October of 1931 and was originally called Plain Clothes Tracy, but the publisher changed it to Dick Tracy before it aired for the first time. The comic strip gave birth to a radio series, a film series in the 40s, so much popularity behind it that it created a ton of merchandising, which the first was badges with Tracy's square jaw, followed by dolls, games, toy guns, two-way wrist radios, and books. Now, this version of the film that we all know has gone through multiple different iterations. In fact, there was a musical version in the 70s of this with Sonny Bono as Dick Tracy and Cher as Tess Trueheart.
What?
Oh my God, we need to watch that.
Yeah, why did we not watch that?
I'm guessing it never got made, would be my guess. But
Oh.
the Rocketeer, Dave Stevens, the writer and artist of the original graphic novel, he gave the film's production designer Jim Bissell and his 2 art directors his entire reference library pertaining to the Rocketeer at that time period, including blueprints for the hangars and bleachers, schematics for the building of the autogyro, photos and drawings of the Bulldog Cafe, the uniforms for the air circus staff, contacts for locating the vintage aircraft that were supposed to be used. Stevens recalls that they basically literally just took the reference and built all the sets.
Wow.
Okay, so Rocketeer is going to lose for production design. Like, that's not fair.
Hey, you know. All right, moving on. We have acting.
Look, I don't think Billy Campbell can act. I don't think he can act very well, and I think it's one of the big reasons why the Rocketeer fails. I could not get past it. I feel like it's someone that he had the look, and nobody stopped them and said, you know what, maybe we need to find somebody that can actually act. In my opinion, I feel this category is very cut and dry. When you put up against somebody like, Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty and Al Pacino, and you just there's so much more weight to Dick Tracy and the acting in Dick Tracy. And I know that the characters, their delivery is very, I don't say it's stilted, but it really does pull from that Sunday comic feel to it. And I think that's one of the reasons I really like about it is that they were, they acted in a way that really kind of felt like they were talking off the page. Yes, even Madonna did a serviceable job. Way better than I think Billy Campbell did. So,
well, maybe, but yeah, serviceable is the best I think you can give her. Even with singing, I'll get into that later.
Yeah, and that's fine. And we probably should have mentioned this the last time. The twist at the end of Dick Tracy is shit. It's really bad. I remember being 14 years old and watching this at the theater and going, what? Like, what? That's who the blank fate was her? And then you just start going back through the movie. You're like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would she do it? And I feel like that's where a lot of the movie fails, is that twist at the end. But I don't know. I feel like Madonna has a lot worse movies than this one. And
this is true.
She did what she was supposed to do. So Glenn Headley, I thought she did a really great job. And even the kid, I don't even know where he is anymore, if he's still acting or not, but he did a great job. On the Rocketeer side, what are you waving at me for?
Oh, nothing. I fell down a rabbit hole about Charlie Corsmo. I'll wait till you're done.
Is that the kid?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. On the other hand, Rocketeer isn't without great acting. I really don't. I don't really understand. So Timothy Dalton. I never trust him when he's in movies. Even when he was James Bond, I had questions about him. Like, he said Bond, James Bond. I was like, really? Are you really? And so when they recast James Bond and got him out of there, I was like, oh, good. He was
actually a Nazi.
Yeah, he was actually a Nazi the entire time.
Dare Bond.
Alan Arkin is great in it, and John Polito is fantastic. He played the same character many, many, many times, and nobody does it better than him. And so it was really sad to see him get off halfway through the movie. But and then Jennifer Connelly, it's pretty good. I would say she is as good in this as Madonna was in Dick Tracy. This was not her Requiem for a Dream. That was to come later, obviously. But like I said, I think Madonna gets a bad rap, but I think the least valuable player out of both movies is Billy Campbell. And it pains me. What would have Rocketeer become if they'd gotten somebody else in there? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I've wondered that myself, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, why
we're
did that not
we're-
become kind of a franchise of some
We're
sort?
going to have alternate universe discussions after you're done with acting.
You think Bruce Campbell would have been a good
Oh
Rocketeer?
my God. Yeah, I've thought about that.
He might have been a good Dick Tracy.
With rockets for hands.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh, that's
I need,
Iron Man. That wouldn't work.
I need to go. Kyle and I have actually talked about Charlie Corsmo on Sunday and then fell down a rabbit hole. So the kid is now an assistant professor of law and the U.S. director of Canada U.S. Law Institute at the Case Western Reserve University School of Law, where he teaches courses in corporate law, corporate finance, and torts. Corsmo's articles have appeared in William and Mary Law Review, Brooklyn Law Review, among others. His scholarship has been cited by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit and in the New York Times. Prior to joining the faculty at Case Western, Corsmo was visiting assistant professor at Brooklyn Law School. Corsmo clerked for the Honorable Ralph K. Winter on the U.S. Court of Appeals. He practiced in New York offices of Sullivan and Cromwell. From 2001-2003, Corsmo worked at the Environmental Protection Agency for the U.S. House of Representatives as staff for the House Policy Committee and the Homeland Security Committee. In 2011, President Obama appointed Corsmo to the Board of Trustees of the Barry Goldwater Scholarship Foundation. He also holds a Bachelor in Science in Physics from MIT and a JD from Yale Law School. So
I think that certificate he got at the end kind of went to his head, I think.
Yeah.
like, isn't
I'm
that
gonna need
nuts?
more of these. I
Like,
need more of these certificates.
that is absolutely insane. And it says here that the reason he started acting was he was bored at school. And
Well,
it just sounds like he's a brain. But
he should have stayed at school because he's fucking terrible in Dick Tracy.
He is not.
Bad kid acting is bad, and he's bad.
so yeah,
He's not Jake Lloyd, but he's bad.
right.
Not
But
bad.
if you want to go with talking about Dick Tracy, I mean, you have a lot of heavy hitters. You have Al Pacino just chewing scenery as Big Boy. I loved just William Forsythe as Flat Top. Like, he just has that look of a prick, and he made a great Flat Top. But you have like Charles Dunning, Seymour Castle. It's just full of heavy hitters. Notice I did not say anything about Madonna. Warren Beatty, I think, is just playing the straight-laced, cop. That's all he's doing. And Warren Beatty can act, but I think just in this, I think he's just the straight-laced cop. He's playing it straight and narrow. Jennifer Connelly, I believe the only reason that she got the part in The Rocketeer was because of her huge tracts of land. And I agree. Billy Campbell, there are parts where I'm like, oh, what would it have been like with, this actor or this actor? Alan Arkin makes the movie for me. I'm a huge Alan Arkin fan. I also like John Polito. He plays Bigelow.
Yeah.
I've always liked him. But the thing I think that I love about it was Terry O'Quinn as Howard Hughes, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I was such an aviation nerd back when I was a kid, and I knew who Howard Hughes was, and it's just stuck with me. But yeah, and Paul Sorvino is in both, so it goes to prove Paul Sorvino is the greatest gangster of all time because he's in every gangster movie or any movie that has a gangster.
Right.
Dick
Yeah, I
Tracy
just
has
realized just now that Paul Sorvino was in both. I didn't recognize him as the guy slurping down the oysters or whatever. I didn't know that was him.
Rice.
That's Lips. Yep.
Lips.
That was
yeah. Lips, man.
disgusting.
It was disgusting. Yeah, no, I just realized that he was in both. I didn't know that until now.
That's a great idea. If I ever decide to have a sex change, I could call myself Nips Manless.
It works on so many levels.
It does. Dick Tracy had a huge amount of star power in it. I mean, James Caan shows up for 30 seconds.
Yep.
Kathy Bates is in it for 10 seconds. So bizarre. But yeah, they're all as flat as if they were on the comic page. And I just want to point out that I think there's been a misunderstanding in pop culture in the last 10 or 15 years that Al Pacino has suddenly become a bad actor. And I just like to say he's been a bad actor for 40 years. You can see him in this movie.
No.
He is terrible in this movie.
No.
Out of his mind.
No
one, and Warren Beatty will not rein him in. He is out of his goddamn mind in this movie. And I like Al Pacino in a lot of roles, but this is fucking distracting and crazy. And yeah, part of the reason I didn't like this movie was because of the what I think is really poor acting all through Dick Tracy. Warren Beatty is a piece of white toast in a yellow jacket.
Yeah,
I mean, for Christ's sake, Madonna
there's
is garbage, and you can tell that they think Madonna is going to sell this movie because they keep letting her sing and sing and sing. At one point, sing an entire song, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I don't care about this. This is boring. Billy Campbell can't act, which sucks because he looks like such an actor. He is an impossibly handsome man, and if he'd gotten some acting lessons, he probably would have gone on to being very successful. But yeah, I thought the first 30 minutes of The Rocketeer, I was like, wow, this is really good. This is really, really good. I'm really enjoying this. And then it just starts to taper off, and then surprise Nazi, and I'm like, okay, it's just not good anymore. I don't think the acting isn't particularly strong in either of these movies, with the exception of Alan Arkin, who's always good. But yeah, Al Pacino didn't suddenly become bad. He's always been capable of being out of his fucking mind.
That's not true, Al. Don't listen to him. You're right.
Hey, there are a lot of Al Pacino movies I love, but sometimes I think whether or not Al Pacino gets criticized for a role or applauded for a role comes completely down to the movie he's in and not his actual acting. Because I feel like he's sort of like Nick Cage sometimes, where you're like, oh, he's just being Al Pacino right now. He's just going to scream and yell and pound on the desk and shout, which is really good in this movie and really bad in this movie. And it just kind of is uneven to me because I think he's always been a little off the rails. But he's a national treasure.
I would honestly put his Dick Tracy role in top 5.
Top 5 of what?
His top 5 films. I think it's fantastic. He is.
I thought he was way over the top.
Good. It's a Sunday comic. It's a Sunday comic.
But it was just.
But he's in a different movie.
Think about how boring Dick Tracy would be if they had reined in Al Pacino. Think about that for just a second. He is the only thing, not the only thing. The set design is pretty awesome, and the special effects are pretty good. But he's one of the things that keeps this movie chugging along, and you can't wait to see him on screen again. I'm sorry. Would you rather be at that big? What's his name? Big man? Big guy? What the fuck his name is?
Big boy.
Big Boys. Would you rather be at Big Boy's hideout, or would you rather be back at Dick Tracy's apartment brushing teeth? You couldn't wait. Wait to get back to see Al Pacino again. Or do you want to? Or do you want to go?
I was kind of afraid to see Al Pacino again because it just kind of turned me off. I was like, he's too much. He's just too much. I think if he had toned it down like 2 notches, it would have been just right. But he just
notches. I got you, notches right here.
yeah, exactly.
See,
it was way too much for me. And Madonna, I thought was awful. Well, sometimes I think when you see somebody like that who's famous for something else,
yep,
you get distracted. You're like, oh, that's Madonna, and I thought her singing was terrible. I thought that's what she did for a living was sing, but apparently not. Her vibrato was awful. It was so weird, and she didn't have any range. It was like these songs are really boring. They're just awful. She was terrible. I thought she was a bad choice for that. And he said Warren Beatty.
Songs written by Stephen Sondheim and Danny Elfman, and they're
and we can talk more about the terrible Madonna singing when we get into actual like the music part of it. So that'll be fantastic to pick up on, Gabe. All right.
Taskmaster. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's it. Crack of the whip.
Yeah, we only went 2 minutes over. Nice job, Taskmaster.
Hey, I wanted to make sure that everyone got a fair share since someone needed to filibuster, as you would like to call it.
I was going to filibuster. I was going to take over this category, but I felt people had to get some Madonna shit off their chests. So
And
I hope everyone's happy now.
We have plenty of more rounds, I'm sure, for Madonna. All right, here we go. Well, acting, Tom.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'm going to have to give it to Dick Tracy because Al Pacino was awesome in this. And Billy Campbell sucks ass.
Mike.
Alan Arkin and Huge Tracts of Land take it for the Rocketeer for me.
And Gabe.
Yes, Billy Campbell was awful, but Al Pacino was awfuler. So Rocketeer for me.
Fair enough. And Kyle.
The best actress in any of these movies was the lady playing the princess, who stops the entire scene with her bad performance. She would have fit right in Dick Tracy. So I'm going to vote for the Rocketeer.
All right. All right. So we like to talk about alternate realities a little bit. So I did a bunch of digging to get as much as I could for acting. So Dick Tracy. Originally, Macaulay Culkin was considered to play the role for the kid, but he actually turned it down so he could do Home Alone. Funny enough, Catherine O'Hare, who played McCulkin's mother in both Home Alone and Home Alone 2, she has a cameo as Texie Garcia in Dick Tracy. Gene Hackman turned down the role of Lips Manless, I think is how you pronounce it. He originally turned it down because he couldn't bear being directed by Warren Beatty again after his bad experience on Reds in 1981. He is quoted saying, "I think I disappointed him. After repeated takes on one scene, he calmly moved on saying, print number 7 and 12. The fact that I hadn't solved the character well enough to get it even close was never brought up," end quote. When Warren Beatty heard this, he teared up and said, "Gene said that? He's wrong. He got it. He had a temperature of 102, flew all the way over to London to do this one scene where he just talks his ass off. He said, I'm not getting this." And I said, "No, you are. With Hackman, you just do more takes because who knows? Let's see what might happen here. But I knew I had it, and I've never worked with a better actor," unquote. So that could have been an interesting play. So the worst or the craziest ones are the Rocketeer. So everyone's talking about the wonderful lead character Cliff. Casting his role was a very, very hard struggle. In fact, Jeffrey Katzenberg was the chairman of Walt Disney Studios at the time. He even had one of the studio's then staff writers, Carrie Kirkpatrick, audition for the part. Billy Campbell is noted to have gotten the part because he read the graphic novels before his audition and got his hair cut like the graphic novel character. Kevin Costner and Matthew Modine were the first actors considered for the role. When they both were unavailable, Michael Keaton, Alec Baldwin, Robin Williams, Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford, Ron Perlman, and Tom Hanks were all considered. Emilio Estevez, Bill Paxton, Dennis Quaid, Kurt Russell, and Johnny Depp all auditioned for the part. And Johnny Depp was actually Disney's favorite choice. Vincent D'Onofrio and Richard Marx both turned down the role. So there you go for an alternative of the Rocketeer.
He read the book and got his hair cut? Are you fucking kidding me?
He was noted by one of the, during his audition, that he looked exactly like the main character.
Oh, that's the most important thing. Yeah, that's always the most important thing. Yes.
Yeah, for a graphic novel, almost no one's read.
Yeah, you don't want to piss off the 3 people that have read it.
That's earning a paycheck right there.
And that's before the internet and before social media. Like, if it was 2021, you might have an argument.
Karen, who do you think should play the Rocketeer? Well, I really like that guy because he looked like the comic book. Okay, Karen's right. Let's just get him.
Yeah.
Should we bring up the fact that he's wearing a helmet the entire time? No, it's fine.
But what about Kurt and Johnny? No, well, the young man cut his hair to look like the comic book character, and that took guts. Yep. Get Campbell on the phone.
You're gonna make me tell this kid that he cut his hair for nothing? Don't make me be that guy, Jeff.
So, yeah. So there are your alternate universes.
That's crazy.
I was just more impressed with the fact that there were so many people that were considered, from Robin Williams to Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Ron Perlman. I mean, that's crazy. Whew. All right. Here we go. Moving on. Directing of the actors.
Oh boy, directing of the actors. After we've already torn down both movies for their acting. Let's see. Let's go with production design first and foremost. Wow, Dick Tracy. Like I think Kyle said, style over substance. I think this movie is just beautiful. The use of the colors, the use of the lighting, and I understand that the director doesn't give all, doesn't do everything, but he has to give them a direction in which way to go. And I thought Dick Tracy is just beautiful looking, where it comes from the miniature work to the actual sets to the cars, the watch. Like I always wanted that watch, and now smartwatches are around, and I have one, and it drives me crazy. But yeah, Tom's showing his smartwatch. It's just really great, and it captivated me as a kid when I watched it. And watching it again now, it blew my mind. Just the amount of color, the lighting, and everything that I've mentioned is fantastic. It's no secret that Warren Beatty and Madonna had a little thing going on during the making of this film, and I think that's one of the reasons why she was in there. And that comes down to the director choosing is someone he's interested in, and or girlfriend or mistress or whatever you want to say, over possibly other actresses that could have done a better job. Let's move on to the Rocketeer. I love some of the shots in the Rocketeer. There's a few that have not aged well, but Joe Johnston comes from a background in visual effects, if I remember correctly, because I believe he worked in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So for me, the Rocketeer just captivates me even to this day. I love the adventure of it, and I can look past all the faults. Just the adventure story draws me in every time. And I think Joe Johnston is able to produce those types of films. He can direct those types of films. I mean, look at Captain America, the First Avenger. Look at Jumanji. We won't bring up there. He's had a few stinkers in his lineup. Jurassic Park 3 comes to mind, which was a mess apparently. Anyway, as far as directing the talent, I think he had a lot to do with Pacino. I think Warren Beatty was like, you know what, Al, take this over the top. Do you do you, and make this yours. And he did. And I think it was a smart choice just to take him off the leash and let him go. Some parts I feel like he did a great job at, as Tom said, bringing the comic strip to life. Like there was not a lot of it's just dialogue, and it's cops and robbers. That's all it was. That's all the comic strip was. And I think they brought in some life to it. As far as the Rocketeer is concerned, I'm just going to keep repeating myself. It's a great adventure story, and I sit down and watch it whenever it's on.
special effects in Rocketeer were pretty awful.
Yeah, they have not aged well. There are a few that are still good, but man, there are some that are like,
it's cringy. Yeah. And all of Dick Tracy's they were all practical, all the sets and everything. They didn't use any there were any CGI or anything like that, which is pretty awesome. So
it's amazing.
It does make me wonder. Dick Tracy, is it a what I call a Ben Affleck effect, where sometimes it's not possible to be the director and actor in the same movie. The movie suffers, and I'm wondering if Dick Tracy suffers from that. Ben Affleck is a wonderful, amazing director, but when he's in front of and behind the camera, there's a little bit of a problem. You could argue that Argo might be the exception. The Town was also pretty good, so he's getting better at it, but some of his movies with him in it are not great. And so I wonder if Dick Tracy would have been better if someone else had played Dick Tracy or someone else had directed it. So, but yeah, I think I think the special effects, how they've aged in these two movies, it leans me heavily towards Dick Tracy, just because it's weird that the practical effects and real sets and everything else age so much better because of the, it's not gonna age if it's not CGI. So
yeah, the problem with CGI in the 90s is that I don't think anybody thought about it at the time, but it immediately ages your film and dates it as we go into the future. When things get so much better, you look back and go, it kind of makes you cringe and takes you out of the film a bit. So doing stuff practically.
Was that actually CG though, or was it kind of more the old school compositing and layering? And
what do you mean?
A lot of it is the compositing.
I feel like that was kind of the state of the art at that time. Stuff that had kind of started with movies like Star Wars and that kind of stuff, and then had been evolving over time, and then sometime after that, I'm not quite sure. Does anybody know when the first CG movie, movie that
T2 came out within a couple weeks of this, I thought. I mean, it went from, I think that's actually probably, you have to go back and kind of look at the history of it. Is Terminator 2 one of the reasons Rocketeer fell so fast out of the box office? Was, I'd be interested to know what the release dates were, because you look at Rocketeer and Terminator 2 does not is not kind to Rocketeer, because you go watch Rocketeer and then you go see Terminator 2 and you go, ooh, okay, well this is
it's still,
if you want,
Terminator 2 is still pretty fun to watch,
Gabe,
and it still looks pretty decent.
If you want to know the first use of computers for visual effects, I believe it was young Sherlock Holmes. I think it was the stained glass night, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
Remember hearing something about.
The Last Starfighter is the first CG. The stained glass is the first live action and CG mix, because the first use of computers was actually Tron, or Last Starfighter, which brought them into Tron, which then brought into the stained glass, which is our first time composite.
Yeah, so I looked, and Terminator 2 came out 2 weeks after The Rocketeer.
Oh yeah, you can't compete with that.
It's like Rocketeer's special effects aged in 3 weeks.
Instantly.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks.
Well, and that's the difference between Disney doing the visual effects and ILM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought the production design on both movies was actually pretty good. It was very different. They were very different styles. But one thing I noticed that Warren Beatty used a lot, which I kind of actually liked, was the diopter, where one thing would be in focus, something would be up front really close to the camera and be in focus, and then something in the distance would also be in focus. And I actually kind of liked some of those shots. I've liked the use of that in things like Pulp Fiction and other movies. Probably what's the pool playing movie? Martin Scorsese.
Oh, geez.
Color of Money.
Yes.
Yeah. I think they use that in that a bit too. So, But anyway, that's one of the things I noticed was that choice of shots. So, yeah, I thought the I thought the production design on Rocketeer was actually very nice too, because I do think that they were very kind of accurate to the time, or at least it felt accurate to the time. I don't know how historically accurate it was, and it was reminiscent to me of some of my favorite movies, like Raiders of the Lost Ark and that kind of stuff. It had that feel, and it's no surprise that Joe Johnston was like associated with Spielberg and Raiders of the Lost Ark and that kind of stuff. He definitely learned and borrowed from that experience for sure. Yeah, I don't know that either of them really did a great job of directing the actors, as Andrew said, and especially themselves. There was a part where Warren Beatty was talking to Madonna, and she was saying, tell me you want me or whatever, and he looked like he had the worst gas. Like he was just about to shit his pants. And I'm like, what does this look? That is the weirdest look. What is wrong with you?
Are we going back to talking about acting again?
Well,
God, you're just doing anything to shoehorn more acting knocks in here, aren't you?
Yeah, but he also had to direct himself, and he didn't look at that take and go, maybe I could make a better face. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not sure either director did a great job with the using the actors to their fullest. I know Tom disagrees with that, but that's just kind of my take on it. But they felt like they loved the subject matter and were very true to the production design and that kind of thing.
Yeah, where did the Rocketeer get all of their great production design from? It's amazing. They really must have done their research or had somebody from the past time travel and give them pictures of the past.
Yes.
No.
Are you bitter about that?
I don't know. I just, so much of production design is staying true to it. And when somebody hands you a whole file with and here's how the buildings are going to look, and here's how the weapons are going to look, and here's how the gyro thingy's going to look, just whatever. I don't know. Especially when the production design Dick Tracy is so fantastic. So, but yeah, like you said, the split focus is really good. I mean, I remember seeing Dick Tracy in the theater and just being blown away by the colors, and that was such a weird thing to just walk out of it and be like, my God, I don't remember a movie just jumping off the screen like that. And then I saw Terminator 2 shortly after. I think came out soon after
Dick
2.
Tracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really one of the first attempts that I remember where they really tried to make the movie look like a comic.
Yeah.
They took those colors and really amped them up and made them bright and like it was printed right on a page. And
yeah.
What a wonderful segue of the color styling and color toning that we can talk about in overall, because that is where the overall of the film. So that's fantastic. You guys brought up some great points there on directing. So your bonus trivia before I get to real trivia is because you guys talked about it. I wasn't going to even mention it, but Dick Tracy was one of the last films to ever be made that used the glass paintings as backgrounds for compositing. So that's your bonus trivia. All right. So let's talk about directing. Mike.
Oh boy. I'm just going to go with the Homer on this one, the Rocketeer.
Okay. Gabe.
Rocketeer.
Ooh. Kyle.
I like watching Tom's soul slowly leave his body as everyone keeps voting for the Rocketeer. I'll vote for the Rocketeer.
Tom, do I ask or
Dick? That wasn't my vote. That was my vote. That was directed at Kyle. But I'm also voting for Dick Tracy.
Fair enough. Okay, so Warren Beatty originally wanted Bob Fosse to direct, but Fosse actually turned him down. Martin Scorsese was also a fan of the comic strip and was considered to direct, but he lost interest instead and chose to make Goodfellas. Tim Burton was also offered to direct the movie, but he declined because he was already doing Edward Scissorhands.
Oh my God.
There you go. There's some variant branches for you.
Yeah.
So for The Rocketeer, Joe Johnston's work on this film is what actually led to his hiring as director of Captain America: The First Avenger, which Mike brought up. Now, one of his big things that Joe Johnston did in his lifetime is he actually provided the final designs for the Star Wars characters Yoda and Boba Fett, and the final designs for the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wings, the Y-Wings, the Imperial Star Destroyer, the Death Star, and the AT-ATs.
Wow. I did not know that.
So he's been around doing lots of things. So there you go.
Yeah, not to pull in a Loki reference, but like I really think Martin Scorsese was considering taking Dick Tracy, and the TVA showed up. Like, no, reset the timeline, and here's the Goodfellas script.
Well, it's crazy, right? Like Goodfellas, one of his best movies, and Edward Scissorhands, which is what, launched Tim Burton into the stratosphere, right? Even more. And both of them had a chance to do this movie. It's crazy to me.
Woo! All right. So, overall, since you were talking about color, you could pick right back up, buddy.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I think I covered that. If you guys want to add anything to the color stuff, feel free. But I think I covered what I was going to say. I was going to mention the music. I think we need to talk about the music.
Yeah.
Somebody talked about it before. When I heard Rocketeer's theme, I'm like, whoa, I know this. And why do I didn't know I knew it? But it's very iconic and very adventurous. And I really enjoyed it a lot. Now, the music of Dick Tracy is a little bit different. I'm not sure I enjoyed it that much, and I can hit on the Madonna thing again. There was too much Madonna singing. I just didn't think I didn't enjoy the music in Dick Tracy that much. When they had actual old timey songs from that period, it was okay. But when Madonna was doing her routines, I really didn't enjoy that much. So I don't know. What did you guys think of the music in those?
I thought the score in Dick Tracy was good.
Score
I think it was
very good.
It was just on the cusp of becoming, one of those iconic scores that we recognize if anybody had bothered to go see the movie.
Right. Yeah, the Danny Elfman score was good, and it was very Danny Elfman.
The score, I always get the melody mixed up with Batman the Animated Series score, which is, very iconic now. I always get the Dick Tracy and the Batman screwed up in my head when I'm trying to think of one.
Yeah, the music's very good in The Rocketeer and less so in Dick Tracy, in my opinion.
That's not what we said. That's not what we said.
This is what I say.
I know, but you said yeah, like you were agreeing with us, and then the next one didn't agree with us. So I'm just saying.
I've been listening for a while. It's okay. Are we still doing on the Dick Tracy one?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't like that movie.
Is that your overall assessment?
That's my overall. Yeah,
I didn't like that.
If we had to do, maybe we should start making Cinesmack about 3 or 4 minutes long. I'll just be like, yeah, I like it, or no, it's not very good.
It'd be like it was done by farmers, right? For any of us that work in production that have to interview farmers, it's like that seed. Yep,
it's good.
Very, very good point. I will. This is a little trivia about myself. The first time I ever flew in an airplane, I had to listen to the Rocketeer song when we were flying. It was my first song on an airplane.
There you go.
I am such a fucking nerd.
No disagreement there. All right, moving on. We all are, Mike. We all are.
Oh, I know.
Mike thinks it was off. Why is that thing off?
Are we done talking about the movies? Because like we've completely drifted to
Is there nothing overall that we want to cover?
I mean,
okay,
we've
one
covered
thing
a
I want
lot.
to talk about is the cops shooting Tommy guns in these movies.
Yes.
Like in Dick Tracy, they're trying to catch Big Boy as he's coming out of this building, and he has Tess, and nobody knows where they are, where Tess is, or anything. But they just start like hammering this building with their Tommy guns.
Yeah.
Just like raining bullets in there, not knowing if they're going to hit Tess or not. And then the same happens in Rocketeer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It broke that
they
guy's
just-
house.
Yeah, they like just go nuts and just I thought that kind of took me out of it a little bit. It's like, well, that's just, I mean, I get it. It's a movie and they're action movies and I get it, but I just thought that was a little excessive.
Well,
it's like they're not thinking.
I want to
They're
bring
not
it back
thinking
to. I want to bring
It's
it back
not
to
2020,
Kyle.
guys. It's not 2020. Put the guns away.
I
Well,
want.
yeah, I mean, shows policing hasn't changed much in the last 80 years.
Yeah, that's true.
This is true.
So they're a little more selective with the bullets now.
Yeah. Kyle, you just keep talking when we were talking the other day about you can't believe that these movies were rated PG.
Yes, I'm very surprised Dick Tracy was rated PG. The Rocketeer makes sense to me because there's not a ton of stuff in it, but there are full-on exposed breasts and nipples and some very strong sexual innuendos and a lot of people getting shot in Dick Tracy. Not a lot of blood and stuff like that, but just kind of surprised that this movie squeaked through with a PG. But I guess that's one benefit of having Warren Beatty champion your cause, as I'm sure he's got a lot of connections in Hollywood.
I know my kids, and when he jumps off the roof to grab onto the light pole, that was the part where I'm like, well, my kids can't watch this movie because they would try that shit.
Yeah, they need to have the little disclaimer on the screen. Do not attempt this at home.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So let's do this because this is kind of sometimes where we wind up when we run out of stuff to talk about. I'm going to watch Dick Tracy again. And, I'll probably watch Dick Tracy 5 more times. I don't think I'll ever watch Rocketeer again. I'm a little disappointed. Anybody want the Blu-ray? I can give it to you. You can have it. You don't have it?
Like,
I still have my original DVD copy that I watched.
You don't have Rocketeer?
I don't have the Blu-ray. No.
You check your mailbox on Friday, Mr. Keeler.
Thank you.
Yeah, problem.
So this is the first time I've ever watched The Rocketeer, and I don't really feel a strong need to ever watch it again. And it's the second time I've watched Dick Tracy, and I remember seeing it when I was younger and absolutely hating it. And then I watched it again this time, and I thought for a while, this isn't as bad. I overreacted when I was young. And then as the movie went on and on and on, I was like, nope, I was right. Trust your first instincts. You're a lot smarter when you're 10 or 13 or whatever. I didn't enjoy Dick Tracy very much, and I don't think I'll ever watch it again. The one thing about Dick Tracy that I find truly remarkable, I know I've been shitting on it quite a bit tonight, but the production design, the colors, the backgrounds, the mats, the compositing, the everything they did there, the stylization of the movie is absolutely top notch. And there's a reason it was nominated for an Academy Award for that. But it was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song, which I think is a little crazy. Considering the way I thought the music played out in the film. But I just feel like Dick Tracy is... So how come 1990 came along and we got a Dick Tracy movie, but we couldn't get a Captain America movie? It took another, 10, 15 years to get a really good Marvel movie coming out. But Dick Tracy was the one we wanted to glom onto. Like,
hang on, though. If we'd gotten a Captain America movie, it would have looked like the Rocketeer. So let's...
Yeah, I know.
We eventually got the Captain America movie we deserved.
Yeah, we dodged a bullet. But it's strange to me because...
Stick to the timeline.
Who was the audience for Dick Tracy in 1990? Because the Dick Tracy comics... See, I was 7 years old, which would have put me around the beginning of the people they wanted to try to attract to get their parents to come into the theater or something like that, right? 7 or 8 years old, a little. But I had no interest, had no idea who Dick Tracy was or anything like that. So I just don't know how well known of a property it was back then. But around this time, so you're talking 1 year after Batman came out. So I'm sure they were doing the exact same thing they do now, where they see something and go, oh my God, it's an absolute blockbuster. What other properties do we have? What other things like this do we have that we can make?
It does seem weird that they would equate Dick Tracy to Batman and just be like, oh, well, Dick Tracy is also a comic, and be like, nah.
Right.
It's not the same.
It's really, you're not really respecting the vast genre and spectrum of what is comics and graphic novels.
If we're going with our overall take on these, I mean, I have a Rocketeer jetpack and a Rocketeer helmet. I love the Rocketeer, and I'll watch it as many times as I can. If it's on TV, sometimes I'll throw in the DVD, which I'll have a Blu-ray soon. I'll have to watch that. I feel that Dick Tracy gets a bad rap.
It does.
Really do. I think it does. I love, I've said it before, the production design for me is fantastic. And it takes me back to being in the theater as a kid and just enjoying it. Of course, now with more of a trained eye, there are certain things that bother me, but I'm still going to enjoy the movie, and I'll still probably watch it again. But yeah, I would watch The Rocketeer before Dick Tracy, but I can't wait to show Liam both these movies. And I should probably show them to him before I show him more of the Marvel movies. Because otherwise he's going to be like, what is this, Dad? Why are you showing me this?
Definitely before Terminator 2, as we've learned.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
But weren't you just saying that you were surprised that they were PG?
Yes.
And now you're going to show them to your
Well, I'm not
child.
going to show it to him now when he's 4.
Yeah.
Just real quick, for anyone that's a fan of The Office, Michael's boss, Jan, is actually the singer inside Bottom of the Sea Club? I just messed that up.
The South
Oyster
Seas Club.
Yeah, South Seas Club. Yep.
She comes out of the Oyster.
Yep.
Oh. She's a really good singer. She's released a couple albums. I looked her up when we started watching The Office because I didn't know really much about her.
I would be curious. I'm curious as to know, like everybody, Madonna's gotten weird. Okay, the British accent stuff and her music isn't as good as it was, but I mean, Madonna in 1990 was a very different person, and I feel like sometimes her career in the last 31 years has taken away from what she did early on. I mean, Reservoir Dogs opens with them talking about her music, for crying out loud. She's obviously in a much different place.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm still able to like look back and remember, where she was and, at that time, and I can, separate that. So I don't want to. I'm not, just because she's adopted a British accent and gotten all weird, I'm not gonna dismiss everything she's ever done.
She's in one of my favorite movies, A League of Their Own. Like, I love A League of Their Own.
TV show. Did you see the TV show?
No.
Guess who the manager is? I get to see your face when you find out who's playing the manager.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Nick Offerman.
What? Really?
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Oh, man.
So you're saying that Madonna was good up until she became British?
No, I think it was ebbs and flows, but
most things are good until the Brits get their hands on it. I mean, look what they did to Cuisine.
Kyle, you've always done a really stellar Madonna impersonation.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
But we don't have time. There's only 30 seconds left. Maybe on the next episode, remind me.
Okay.
Nope.
Just,
We're going to make extra time for this.
Are we doing Who's That Girl next month?
Warren Beatty, up until the mid-2000s, has been talking about doing another Dick Tracy movie.
He still owns all the rights, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, they went to court over it and everything. What are the odds we get a Dick Tracy 2? It's got to be 0%, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He'll call it D2.
All right. Wow. Okay. Well, I hope everybody got out what you needed to get out.
I think
This
we
is
have.
therapy for me.
Well, that's good. That's what we're here for. All right, so we're gonna start. Gabe, your vote.
Rocketeer.
Kyle.
I'm voting this way only to make Tom like me again. Dick Tracy.
I'm gonna vote this way to fuck with Kyle. I'm gonna vote for Rock. No, I'm just kidding. Dick Tracy.
Mind
I
games.
can't do it. I'm sorry. Bill Campbell's so awful. He's so awful.
And Mike, you get the final vote.
I still say Dick Tracy gets a bad rap, but I am voting for the Rocketeer.
Thanks. Okay, so Dick Tracy was originally set to be released by Walt Disney Pictures, as indicated by the presence of the Walt Disney Pictures logo on all of the film's teaser trailers, but was passed on to Disney's Touchstone Pictures label because they felt the film was way too racy for the Disney reputation. So here's your Al Pacino love. Al Pacino stated that Madonna flashed him during the rehearsals for the movie, opening her coat to reveal that she was completely naked underneath. Pacino joked that when he is old, if he is observed with a beatific smile on his face, it will be because he is recalling this incident. So there you go with your Al Pacino guy. He's got a big grin because he's remembering naked Madonna.
Real quick, sorry, I didn't get to say this, but Al Pacino during the more the rehearsals is fantastic. I could watch that a dozen times. He's so damn funny in that. He puts himself. I've never seen anybody put themselves into a role like that wasn't named Christian Bale.
So for the Rocketeer, the Disney had a special mechanism built especially for the film called the shaky cam. It was designed as the exact opposite of the steady cam, and it was used inside of like the Zeppelin to show the power of the engines and such. But when it went to video, it didn't transfer well, so they actually steadied all of that footage back out. The plane that was flown by Cliff in the opening is the GB Racer, specifically the Model Z from 1931. And when Cliff crash lands the GB, Alan Arkin, the PV character, narrowly missed being severely injured when a cable pulling the mock-ups of the plane along the runway snapped, and they struck Mr. Arkin behind one of his knees. And the GB they used for this filming was only allowed to land a limited number of times during its time working on the movie because landings are extremely hard on the landing gear of this plane.
Yeah, they were known as the flying coffins.
Yep.
They were about the size of one. He barely fit in that thing.
Poor
The
Mr.
little
Arkin.
cockpit was tiny.
Hey, I was just looking at the soundtrack to Dick Tracy. It has Erasure, Jerry Lee Lewis, Darlene Love, you remember her from Lethal Weapon, and Ice-T. So if you need which soundtrack featured Erasure, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Ice-T, the correct answer is Dick Tracy.
That's crazy.
Dick Tracy did two versions of the song Dick Tracy.
Oh my
and
God.
now I have to go find Ice-T singing Dick Tracy.
Ice-T and Body Count do Dick Tracy.
Oh my gosh.
Body Count, they were great.
Yeah.
So,
I love any band that makes the modern society that mad. It just fills my black heart with joy.
While our monkeys continually try to figure out how to add with their fingers and toes and tails, we're going to go to recommendations. So we'll start with Kyle. Mr. Recommendation, please.
First recommendation, if you don't wear shoes, you can count to 20. Yeah. Mike got a kick out of that one. Thanks.
21 if you have a tail.
That struck me as funny.
21 if you're my Uncle Andy, who has a sixth toe on one foot. All right.
Oh, I thought maybe he didn't have his pants on.
Right.
That's
yeah. Anyways, I'm going to make a meta recommendation. I'm not going to recommend a movie or something you should watch. What I'm going to recommend is that when we do these podcasts, go to YouTube and look for the original theatrical trailers for these movies and watch them, because trailers in the 90s were fucking nuts. The Dick Tracy trailer, which I just watched for the first time, looks like it was cut by Michael Bay on acid. It is the fastest, most incoherent mess of colors and nonsense I've ever seen. I was baffled that anyone would watch that and go, I've got to see that movie, and not someone had a stroke while putting all of that footage in an editor, because that's what it looks like. Then you watch the Rocketeer trailer, and half of it is literally 2 scenes that they just play in order all the way through.
Yes.
And you're like, what was the trailer game in the late 80s, early 90s? Because now trailers are so slick and engaging and polished, and goddamn, they are a hot mess. So if you want to have a little extra fun, do what I do and watch the original trailers for these movies, especially if they're from the 90s, because it was the Wild West of trailers. Watch the Dick Tracy trailer. It's nightmare fuel.
Okay.
Is that your recommendation?
My recommendation is to watch trailers from the 1990s, especially if they coincide with movies that we're doing.
And I can't recommend a book. Jesus Christ.
You can totally recommend a book.
No, I can't, Kyle. I fucking can't. I tried that, and it brought the show to a halt.
You and I both once recommended movies that never had not come out yet.
Fucking bullshit. No, it's okay. Recommend a philosophy or an idea. That's way better than
Let's talk about solipsism. Okay, everybody. I'm recommending.
Okay, well, Tom, these movies are about comic books, so book is in the genre, so maybe you can recommend a book this time.
Now you tell me. I have a TV show to recommend.
That's not a movie. We can't allow that. It's got to be a movie.
Good point.
It's a movie that they chopped up into 6 parts. It's a movie they chopped up into 6 parts. I recommend everybody watch Loki on Disney Plus. It's fantastic. It's a blast. It's more fun if you have the MCU knowledge backing you up. But I think it's really, really fantastic, and it's fun and trippy. And Tom Hiddleston is a national treasure for another country. But yeah, check out Loki. It's fantastic. It's so good.
All right. Gabe.
Jill and I recently watched My Octopus Teacher, and it's a really beautiful, really charming, very interesting movie. The reason I watched it is in part because of Tom's Oscar party and his kids' drawings for it. And so I had to know what it was about, and it's really a very interesting documentary about a guy's basically relationship with an octopus. It sounds strange, but it's very well done. I would highly recommend it.
It does. It's really good, isn't it? It's one of those documentaries where, as a filmmaker, you watch it half the time going, how'd they do this?
Yeah.
Could I do this? No, I couldn't do this.
Well, yeah, I wondered how he got some of those shots, and he as far as I could tell, I didn't know if he had a crew or if he was just down there with his camera just shooting all this stuff, and how much of it, they can do a lot in editing. There's a lot of magic in editing, and it's like, well, maybe he went and got pickup shots later for things that he needed, because there's a lot of what Mike would refer to as like dog shots, like of ocean creatures and that kind of thing, but just the stuff that he captured and how he put it together as a story, and it really makes you feel something for this octopus, it is really well done.
Yeah, definitely watch it before the octopi take over the world, which I really think they might do someday.
They could. They're probably smarter than us.
They're pretty smart. Yeah.
I, for one, welcome our octopi overlords.
Thank you, Camp Brockman.
Thank you, Gabe, for your henty, wonderful recommendation. We appreciate that. For all of you underage people, please don't look that up. All right, Mike.
Oh boy, I'm gonna actually recommend a TV show as well. It's 3 seasons so far, and I binge watched the first season this past weekend, and that is Formula One: Drive to Survive. It is so well done. Just some of the footage that they capture, and they make you care about the middle of the road teams and the last teams in Formula One, instead of just concentrating on the number one team, the best driver and all that. They're talking about these teams that are struggling, that are trying to get out there. And it is fantastic. And I also want to recommend Clarkson's Farm. But that's on Amazon, not Netflix.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't sure if I was going out there to pick something. Clarkson's Farm?
No, Clarkson's Farm. It's fantastic.
Okay. I guess I can throw in my recommendation here at the end. I'm sticking with kind of the genre of that comic booky, old style 1940s kind of feel. I don't know if anybody's recommended it before, but I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's super fun to watch, and that's Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. It has a very, very similar kind of feel to the Dick Tracy with the crossover of the Rocketeer and just kind of this mix with Nazis. And there's just so much crazy that goes on in that movie. So
That's a good one.
that's my recommendation. All right. Let's poke the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by a high-flying, Nazi-defeating masked hero is the Rocketeer!
Not as close as I thought it was going to be. Kyle, if you would try to get more on Tom's good graces, we might actually have.
I don't feel good about the Rocketeer winning. I don't think the Rocketeer was that good.
Oh, well, are you having regrets? Because that's
No,
what happened,
I just
Kyle.
think Dick Tracy
the Rocketeer
was really
just
bad.
won something. The Rocketeer just
I
won
know.
something. Like,
But
think
it
about
won-
that.
won
You
such
think about that.
insignificance
When you go to bed tonight, I want you to stare at the ceiling and say to yourself, my God, the Rocketeer won something tonight. How did the fuck did that happen with those horrible special effects and Billy Campbell in the lead? How does that happen? How does it happen?
he
How does
cut
Al
his
Pacino and
He
Dustin
cut his
Hoffman
hair.
lose to Billy Campbell? How does that happen?
I'm sure when Billy Campbell pulls his face out of a supermodel's crotch and gets the text that his movie won Cinesmack, he'll be so proud. I'm sure he cares.
No, because
And
then
I'm sure
he
Al
will lay awake.
Pacino-
He will lay awake staring at the ceiling going, how did that happen?
I'd be so shocked if Al Pacino gives a shit what my opinion is. He's overacting somewhere. I'm sure he's somewhere overacting about something.
Billy Campbell will be like, wait, we won? Were we up against Howard the Duck?
Yeah.
Were we up against Superman 4? How did this happen? No, you were up against Pacino and Hoffman. And he's like, well, then that show is invalid.
It was all because of a haircut.
Good thing I don't respect Billy Campbell's opinions.
All right.
I really thought this was going to be me and Keeler at the end doing this. So it's refreshing to see Kyle stepping up. And
I'm the surprise Nazi at the end of this movie.
All right. Well, Kyle, where can they find you?
Where can they find me? Most alt-right message boards. That was I'm a surprise Nazi joke. We're gonna move on. This is the kind of shit that gets you canceled. If anybody actually listened. I have a social media presence, but there's don't bother finding me. There are far funnier and more interesting people who care more about you than me.
That's well said.
Okay. Gabe, where can people find you?
You can check out our films, One Genome Short Productions, on YouTube and on onegenomeshort.com.
Awesome. And Tom.
People can find me down at the airport. I'm starting a new company called Fascist Blimp Incorporated. So it's FBI for short. It's kind of throw people off. I really don't know what the hell's going on. You can't ride in the blimp, though. You have to stand on top of it. And obviously, it goes without saying, no smoking.
Okay. You got to get cards made up that say Tom Haggis FBI. And people are like, you were the FBI? Like, yeah, yes, I am. Like, you got a tour of my office.
And you got to tell them to flip the card over, and then it has in small print that
it's all written in German on the back.
What time do you take off? 9.
9.
I'm confused. Do you take off at 9, or are you just not flying today?
Mike.
Well, you can find Southsider Studios on Facebook and on YouTube.
Okay. And you can find me out at ArizonaInkStudios.com. You can try and go out to YouTube. Social media is really, I don't know, not a thing that we really do. But, you could do that. We would appreciate if everyone could leave us a review on Google or iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners, hopefully. If you like us, we ask that you listen with your friends. If you hate us, tell everybody, including your enemies. We want any email or comments we can get. We'll take hate mail. We'll take snail mail. We just want something, anything. That'd be cool. You can get us at cinesmack@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook. Just search for the Cinesmack. So, for August, we travel to the fantasy worlds and join Muppets to get our baby brother back from the evil Too-Tight Pants Jareth, all while fighting the Nothing on our luck dragon. It's the Labyrinth versus the never-ending story. Oh. All right. For Mike, Kyle, Gabe, Tom, and myself, thank you for listening, and go catch a flick.
I didn't know we paid for a Madonna song on the end of this.
She sings like an angel.
Angel! Fucking angel! Well, I like walnuts. It's good for the liver.
I gotta go. I gotta get on my blimp. I gotta go. Me and Billy Campbell and Jennifer Connelly are flying to Hawaii. Why were they flying? How were they going to get? Where were they going from LA? Are they going to go around the long way so nobody thought that they were from Germany?
The giant swastika on the back of your blimp was a dead giveaway.
Actually, back in the 30s, they were sending the Graf Zeppelin around on a tour. The Nazis did around the world.
Well,
yeah, they referenced that in the movie. I didn't know if that was historically accurate or not.
Yes, they did do that.
Thanks for ruining our joke, Mike.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.
It can get lonely climbing Mount McKinley, so to entertain myself, I go to ChumbaCasino.com. At Chumba Casino, I can play hundreds of online casino-style games for free, like online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Plus, I get a daily login bonus. It's just too bad that up here, I don't have anyone to share my excitement with. Woohoo! Woohoo!
Live the Chumba life. Anytime, anywhere. Play for free now at ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.